Hello everyone, my name is Umid and I'm EducationUSA advisor, and today we're going to talk about on how to properly prepare for standardized tests in the United States. So this is our topic for today, and we're going to talk about some of the tips and tricks on how to successfully pass the examinations. So let me give you some quick information about the Education USA. So Education USA is a network of and the official source on United States higher education. There are over 430 international student advising centers across more than 175 countries and territories. So this organization is dedicated to promoting US higher education globally, providing accurate, comprehensive, and up-to-date information. So if you want to get more information, I suggest you register on the platform My Education USA Online and get access to virtual courses for self-preparation admission and online events about the admission process in the USA. Also, you can have an access to your personal student support with a personal advisor. You can access to the interactive webinars, find more useful resources and materials, and you can reach to the community of like-minded individuals. And also, you can watch some of the informational courses. So today we're going to talk about standardized tests. In particularly, we're going to cover what types of the standardized tests are required by most of the universities in the United States. We're going to go into detail and talk about the undergraduate tests, graduate tests, and what are some psychological factors that influence students in achieving low or high scores. So we'll begin to talk about the why to take the standardized test. So first of all, most colleges and universities in the United States require standardized testing for university admission. Standardized tests are used as a filters for applications. So for universities, without your besides from your personal statement and CV and your essays, they cannot assess your cognitive and intellectual capabilities. So one of the measures of this is to provide a test. So this test shows you whether you are competitive enough to enter some kind of program. And it's very essential for understanding international students' intellectual capabilities. So because there are a lot of different educational systems, and in order to test their efficiencies, because not all of the countries can provide quality education, and in order to assess the intellectual abilities of standardized tests are very essential for international students. So now we're going to talk about what tests are essential for international students. So we know that there are some tests like SAT, ACT, IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo, GRE. So, but what tests you need to take at a certain phase? So if you're an undergraduate program, if you're looking for undergraduate programs, or it can be bachelor, or you are looking for associate degree from a community college, in most cases, you're only required to take a language test, so which are TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. If you are looking for taking the tests and want to apply to four-year programs for like a bachelor's degree or business science degree, you may take TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, standardized tests such as SAT or ACT. And if you're seeking for a graduate programs, in some of the cases, you may just need to take a language test such as TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. In some cases, master's program required GRE and GMAT. For PhD, the requirement is quite the same. So it depends on the particular program that you are going to apply for, but in most of the cases, these standardized tests are required. So let's go to the undergraduate testing. So first, we have to identify that the language tests are TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo. They check your English proficiency exams. They check your English proficiency. So, because you're going to study in the United States and your main language of communication will be English, and this is very essential for universities to understand that you have a proper level of English in order to simply be able to interact and learn in the language that is provided in the university. So usually it's required for international students applying to US colleges and universities, and that helps to measure the ability and to use and understand the English in academic setting. So if you are taking, you should pay attention when you are taking a TOEFL or IELTS. You should seek for academic version of this because you're willing to apply to academic institution. So SAT is a general entrance exam for undergraduate studies. It is needed for nearly every program except some specialized ones, and it assesses reading, writing, math skills, and often required by STEAM majors. Also, you can take subject tests, but you should look into the program's requirements in order to know what subject test you need to take. So ACT is like an alternative to the SAT for undergraduate admission. It assesses the same skills, almost the same skills as reading, writing, math, and science skills, and also you can take a subject test depending on the requirements of your program. Okay, and there are also language tests, which are TOEFL, IELTS, and Duolingo. So the prices on them vary in each country. So for TOEFL, you pay around from starting from $180 to $200. For IELTS, you pay around $180, depending on the currency. And for Duolingo, you pay only $59. So both of the TOEFL and IELTS, they are valid for 2 years as well as Duolingo, and you can have multiple attempts in all of these examinations. The major difference between two tests is that TOEFL and IELTS are more credible, and Duolingo is a new emerging version of examination, and it's less credible because there were some cases where students were able to scam this test and cheat during the exams. But most US universities prefer TOEFL, then it goes IELTS, then Duolingo. But again, you should check the university requirements in order to apply for a program. So now we're going to talk about SAT and ACT, so with tips and tricks, and we'll provide some more detailed information. So, for SAT, there is no verbal passages. It goes only 32 minutes of a verbal section, then base model, and then adaptive model, also 32 minutes. Then you have a 10-minute break. After that, you are going to pass two math sections, for each 35 minutes each. So it's more comprehensive wording and vocabulary. Math has limited topics, but more in depth. So, for example, in ACT, you have a trigonometry section, while in SAT you don't, but there is more critical thinking required in SAT. The SAT is now available in digital version, while ACT is only on paper. And for time per question is in SAT is much higher. You have 82 seconds per one question, while in ACT you have to think faster and answer. You have 49 seconds for one question. So, section adaptive, each student gets a different questions where each student in SAT gets the same question. So, for SAT, you have a built-in demos or personal graphing calculator, and for ACT, you can only get a personal graphing calculator. And the score ranges also differ there. Maximum score you can get at SAT is 1,600, and the minimum is 400. For ACT, the lowest score is 1 and the highest is 36. So here, if you are aiming for the Ivy League schools, which are considered to be the most prestigious universities, you can have here a table, and like on average, you need a SAT score of 1,560, and that means that you're more likely to get into the one of this prestigious university. And if you get 1,440, you're less likely, but there were some cases of students who got such score and entered university. And for ACT, you are less likely to enter if you have a score of 33 and lower, and more chances if you have a score of 35 and higher. So now let's move to the SAT and ACT test taking strategies you need to know. So first, you need to identify what. So first, you need to identify if you need to study the subject test. So if you're aiming for biology or chemistry, you need to take this subject tests, which are provided by SAT and ACT. You have to look at the requirements of your program. So you should study on the subjects you'll be tested on during the exam, and one of the most obvious as a suggestion is to complete as many practices tests as you can, because practice makes it perfect. So reading. So when you're doing reading, you should take notes and to complete the passage in order uh, of your strength. So if you are not sure about whether you can answer this question, and if it's taking you a lot of time, you should go to simply to the next question and look what's wrong with the answer choices. So this is called the elimination strategy. Here you can just if you don't know the right answer, you can just simply go to the idea of choosing the wrong answers. And if you're sure that this answer is wrong, you can eliminate all of the options, and it will make your choice easier. And you have to go with your gut, that we will discuss later in the presentation. So writing and language, you have to familiarize yourself with the transition words and linking words, and you need to improve your vocabulary, because in SAT and ACT you will have to enrich your academic vocabulary, and you need to know a lot of words that you are not using in the daily life. You need to know the difference between the main ideas and supporting ideas, and answer the questions paragraph by paragraph. So sometimes you need to read between the lines. What I mean is that the answer in this kind of questions is not always on the surface. Especially in SAT, you have to use your critical thinking in order to get the answer right. So one of the ways is to read more books and practice. So in math, you can draw pictures if you're dealing with geometry, and write out your solutions, because it will help you to get the answers correctly, and it will help you to memorize the way that you are getting to answers, and it improves your score. And you should limit your calculator use, because you sometimes, if you are very good at numbers, it's very time consuming to approach the calculator, and time is precious during the exams. So, and regarding the essay, you always need to plan ahead. So, use advanced vocabulary and fill up those pages. So in order to write an essay, it is obvious that you need a plan, and you need to follow this plan in order to have a great structure. Advanced vocabulary is very essential, because this way you're showing that you have a good control of the language. You should avoid repetition and use as much as possible paraphrasing techniques, and in some cases you should use linking words. So now we're going to preparation materials for SAT and ACT. So one of the best is to go to the official website for SAT. It's College Board, and you can take the official test sample there. And you have a platform for preparing for the test, which is Khan Academy. It's very popular and free of charge. Most of the services are free of charge. Um, you can use a website prepivglobal.com, and you can also access official College Board guides, which are available on Amazon and any other services. And the other popular guidelines from publisher Barron's, Kaplan, and the Princeton Review are also helpful. But remember that practice makes it perfect. And I will repeat it several times during our presentation. So for TOEFL and IELTS, so let's talk about the difference. A lot of students ask, a lot of applicants ask, what is the difference between IELTS and TOEFL? And the main difference is the scoring and the structure. They're quite similar and they're quite different at the same time. So IELTS, you can have a paper-based, computer-based, and online. For TOEFL, you also have the paper-based, computer-based, and online. The length of IELTS is under 3 hours, and TOEFL is under 2 hours. So in the lowest score in IELTS is 0, and the highest is 9. For TOEFL, you have the lowest score of 0 and highest 120, and results you can get from 3 days to 13 days, and then TOEFL you get from 4 to 13 days, depending on the test format that you have chosen. And marking, you have human examiners and automated marking machine. Marking is also called, and for TOEFL you have the same, and it is accepted by over 11,000 organizations, institutions worldwide, and TOEFL has more institutions, like 12,000 university institutions worldwide. And the sections are quite similar. In both of the sections, you have listening, reading, writing, and speaking, but there are some differences in the structures of each section. So uh, in listening, reading, and writing, listening and reading, you have 40 questions. In listening, you have 4 sections, and you just have to listen and you can write the answers straight away. But in TOEFL, you should sometimes get the main idea, and after listening the text, you should write the answers. So preparation materials for TOEFL and IELTS are quite the same. You can use the Longman preparation course or Cambridge, which is very good for if you're taking IELTS, and official TOEFL IBT if you're taking TOEFL. You can use Barron's for both TOEFL and IELTS. And academic vocabulary in use you can use for TOEFL. And if you're not sure whether you're going to take IELTS and TOEFL, you can use a Czech vocabulary for academic English and Czech vocabulary for TOEFL and IELTS. So the idea is quite the same. So if you have a very good academic vocabulary, you may both successfully pass. But if you are aiming for a higher score, for example, like the top score, you need to study the specifics of each test. Because in order to get the maximum score, you need to know uh, each detail and tricks of how to approach certain sections and questions in the exam. So now we're going to the graduate tests. So here we have 4 major graduate tests, which is GRE. It's a general entrance exam for graduate studies, master's or PhD. Is needed for nearly every subject except law, business, and medicine. We're going to talk about it a bit later, and scores reading, writing, and math skills. So, and there's also, as the SAT and the ACT provides a subject test that may be necessary for PhD applicants. So, if you're applying to business, you need to take GMAT. It's an entrance exam to enter business school. And if you want to be a lawyer, you should take an LSAT. It's entrance exam for American law schools, and it's logical and analytical reasoning questions, reading comprehension questions, and if you want to be a doctor, you should take MCAT. So entrance exam for American medical school, different tests if you want to go to dental school or optometry school, measures the content knowledge in sciences. So the graduate test costs about $205 of GRE, and you can take it anytime, and it lasts all for 5 years. All of the graduate tests, they last around 5 years. So you can plan your career, and if you're just graduating from university, you want to get some experience, my suggestion is for you to take graduate test straight away, because when you're starting your work and you're gaining experience, you may not have enough time. And while your brain is fresh from the university and still in academic condition, let's call it this way, my suggestion is for you to take the test straight away, and then you have a 5 years in order to pursue your further master's or PhD education. So we're not, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to talk about all of the tests. So we're going to talk about only GRE. So GRE general structure, it consists of quantitative reasoning. It consists of 27 questions in 47 minutes. Verbal reasoning, it also consists of 27 questions and it provides only 41 minutes. Analytical writing, you have a one essay tasks and for 30 minutes. So overall, it's 1 hour 58 minutes. So the lowest score you can get for a quantitative reasoning is 130, and the maximum is 170. The same goes for verbal reasoning, and for analytical writing, you can get a score from 0 to 6. So, sources for preparation, you have an official website. Information about the test, two free practices is also available on the official website. You have a materials for preparation, theory and quantitative reasoning part, and all topics for analytical writing section. So books on GRE is quite the same. You can have the ETS plus Magoj, Manhattan Prep, and the Princeton Review. And you have a website of ETS. You have a paper-based exam there, so you can take it there 3 times. And one thing I forgot to mention about the differences between the graduate test. So GRE, you can take in as much as you have as much attempts as you need. The same goes for GMAT, but in LSAT and MCAT, you can only have 7 attempts in your life. So you have in this test you can take them as many times as you want, but in this for law schools and medical schools, you can have only 7 attempts per life. And especially if you want to go to medical school, you have only 2 attempts per year and 4 attempts per 2 years. And for GRE and GMAT, it's a different situation. You can have as many attempts as you want. So, and how to get high scores? So, first, and where to start your preparation. So, if you're an international student, and if you're an international student and have zero knowledge in English, or let's say you have a very low level of English, I suggest you start from the improving your language. And first, you need to take IELTS and TOEFL. So, based on my experience, I can tell you that students with IELTS 7, which is C1 level, struggle to get a high scores on standardized tests, because the language tests just make you understand what information you're going to learn at the university. So, but it doesn't give you any other advantages that you need to study standardized test hardly, because it just shows you that you are on the same level as US citizens. But it doesn't show you any of your intellectual abilities. So it just shows that you are able to speak English on a certain level. So you should start by doing this first step. You have to improve your vocabulary, because when you're studying for IELTS or TOEFL, you're learning academic vocabulary, and you need to take mock tests as much as you need. So you should reach at least the level C1. So most of the schools, they require IELTS of 6.5 and higher. And uh, without proper academic English, it's hard to pass standardized tests. So it is the first step. If you don't know where to start your academic preparation, my suggestion for you is to start from learning language tests. After you reached a certain level, let's say IELTS 7 or TOEFL 100, it's only half of the way, because the real Like the real challenge comes when you're facing SAT and ACT, because itself is a very hard and a very complex uh, test. So it's structured structured in a certain way to complicate students. So it starts. There are some questions that are easy, and there are some questions that are very hard. So in order to get the highest score, you should study really hard. So you should first of all work harder on your vocabulary. You should get familiar with math, because for students from other countries, maths can be quite simple, but the logic behind these questions can be sometimes tricky. So you need to study questions, and for this, you need to have a high level of English in order to not make mistakes on such questions. And you need to solve easy questions first, because you have not enough time and all of the questions are marked the same. So if you're stuck on a question, you should go to the next one and continue and so on. And if you have some time left, um, you should go back and revise the questions that you have left out. And one of the key differences between SAT and ACT I forgot to mention is that in SAT you're penalized for making a mistake. So if you have the question wrong, you will be deducted from your mark will be deducted. And if your questions in ACT, you're allowed to make a guess answers. So the next question what we're going to talk about is how to stay motivated. So in order to stay motivated, you can see here that I made a picture, so that motivation is not a stable thing, and you sometimes want to study, sometimes you don't, and then you have a really great desire to study, and then you don't want to do anything at all, and etc. But taking standardized tests, if you have an intermediate level or pre-intermediate level of English, it takes about 2 years, and it's a very long journey. So my suggestion to you is to first of all make a plan with the goals and aims. So the study preparation process is really hard, especially for international students. And if your first language is not English, it is really hard. And sometimes the motivation is not enough, and you need to know why you're doing this. So whenever you don't feel like doing another practice test or learning a new topic or learning the words, you should ask yourself why you're doing this. And if you want to study in the United States, and if you have a strong desire, you should make a timetable. So for instance, you go to school, and the same timetable you should do for your extracurricular activities, such as not only if you're going to some extra tutors, but also if you're going to do a homework, you should make a table and make a plan for this, because without this table you are not going to be disciplined. You have to follow preparation timetable with the discipline. It is very important that you plan not only your school, but not only your extra classes with a tutor, but you also should plan on how much time you're and when you're going to start your homework. This is really essential, because some of the students, they don't plan the time that they do homework, and that makes you kind of not organized. And as well, you should put a rest also into your plan. So you should, I'm not saying if you want to reach the highest score in SAT and IELTS, you shouldn't see your friends and forget about your social life. No, you need your social life, because you're going to burn out and you will lack motivation and you will not have a desire and you will run out of energy, simply because you're not taking proper rest. So you should also plan your sleep. You should also plan your meetings with your friends, and you should also have some time for entertainment. But you need to have it everything scheduled. And if you stick to your schedule, and you have everything planned, and you go little by little, like in this picture, eventually you are more likely to reach your goals. And in motivation here, you're just gonna drop it because you're burnout and you don't know what to do. But if you do gradual small steps every day, little by little, you will eventually reach your goal and you will have your higher tests. So just for you to remember that a big house, like a big score or big accomplishment, is built with tiny bricks, but is built consistently, patiently, and gradually. So this is what you have to do. You have to take small steps, but with a discipline, in the right time, stick to the plan, and you'll be able to get your good scores. So now, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer to them. So if you have no questions, you can register on the platform, My Education USA online, and get access to virtual courses for self-preparation, as well as online events about the admission process in the USA. And you should always do your best and rest assured, and you will definitely pass all the tests and successfully enroll into the US institution. So thank you for your time. Goodbye.